Do you think being in the Air Force helped with also a stronger mentality?
It used to be called Jankers, where you ended up I couldn't get home at weekends, or you had to paint stupid white lines along the airway, or whatever it was. Air Force is...
Having the right people is paramount, not just for you, but for us also.
100%. So we're all about partnership and relationship. I need to know your business. I need to know it intimately, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to...
What are some career mistakes people need to avoid for financial planners or for advisors?
We've got a very successful financial planner who hasn't completed some of his... So him thinking that's okay to do, he's now put his career at potential jeopardy.
The UK is going to get one of the biggest generational transfers, 1 trillion to 5 trillion in the next 2 decades.
Are my kids who fall into that category, are they going to go to Mr. IFA, or are they going to go to Mr. Instagram or Mr. TikTok? My oldest son, Solomon, he would sooner go TikTok or platform or one of his mates chase a cryptocurrency all day long before he even thought about putting his £1,000 into anything like an ISA.
A lot of times we don't think one step further, one step ahead. We see it as face value, but what's their benefit? Because they're saying it for a reason, for an ulterior motive. Welcome to Zomi Wealthcast. It's one of our first ever podcasts for Zomi Wealth. We're very excited. We have a very, very awesome and special guest called Charles Walker. He's a founder and CEO of Focus Selection, a recruitment company established in 2003. He has more than 20 plus years in the recruitment industry in financial services. And if there's no one else better to pick their brain, it's Charles Walker. So I'm very excited to have him on here. We're going to go through various questions, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm Jordan, the host, and this is the Zomi Wealthcast. Hello, Charles.
Jordan, what a great introduction.
I know, it's the first one. I'm actually nervous, very, very nervous.
Hey, that's good. If you're not nervous, you don't care. So it's good that you're nervous.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
No, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you in the presence. I know it was raining outside before you came here, so luckily we've dried up a bit. We've caught up a bit.
100%.
And had some few laughs.
All good.
So ultimately, Charles, I give a bit of introduction about yourself with 20 plus years in the recruitment industry for financial services. And I think you've probably seen it all, done it all. There's a lot of things you've probably seen. I think it's really important just to first, tell a bit about yourself, how you got to where you are now, 20 plus years, director, founder of Focus Selection. It's a big achievement. And I'm sure also in the financial advisory sector, you've seen so many cyclical changes.
Yes.
I think you've seen it all. Obviously, I've not seen it all yet. I've probably done one cyclical change. But I think before we get to the Focus Selection aspect, what did you do way before you became a founder and CEO? Where did you get the idea? What industry were you in before that?
Good question.
And where did we get up to now? Where we are now?
I won't take it back too far because I'm ancient. I've been here forever. But I'll take it back to Pearl Assurance. So I joined the Air Force at 17, 18.
Wow.
I was forced to join the Air Force by my dad. My dad just said, you need to get X amount of, as was in those days, O levels. If you get 8, then you can go and do university and A levels, etc., etc. I got nowhere near the 8. I just wanted to be a footballer when I was young. So my focus was on football. I never hit the 8, so it allowed me to have a second choice to go to sixth form and resit them. I resat them all, and then that allowed me to go to college for a year, and I got a BTEC business studies. So it's kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah.
My dad said, you're taking the mickey out of me, son. All you're doing...
Sounds like most fathers.
All you're doing is enjoying yourself and having a great laugh and going to clubs and you're just partying hard. Right. So I need you to join the Air Force. So old school, shake of the hand. I promised him I'll do it if I didn't get the 8. I never got close to the 8. So I joined the Air Force and had 6 years in the Air Force, which was a great experience. Wow. It enabled me to reset. I did some equivalent of A levels. I got a marketing diploma, which therefore gave me a marketing diploma, which allowed me, when I left the Air Force, and on leaving the Air Force, I wrote to 86 companies in and around Peterborough with my marketing diploma. I got 3 responses. One from Bauer, which is advertising agency. It's like, it used to be called EMAP, but I was doing telephone sales there. And I got also, 11th hour, I got an offer from Pearl to be a marketing and sales coordinator.
Right, well.
The only reason I got that offer, The manager was national service, was in the Air Force.
Right.
So he saw Air Force and thought, I want someone who comes from the forces.
So it comes around, goes around, 360,
correct, 100%.
Isn't it?
Joined them, had a fantastic time. And then in 1996,
right,
Pearl Assurance had some new owners, and they decided they're going to grow the sales force, which is a home service sales force like we talked about before, in terms of direct sales.
Wow.
We paid a really small base salary of whatever it was, 8 or 10K.
Commission based.
Yeah, but they were out commission. It was sell, sell, sell. And everyone had their own little debit. Debit means a book of clients you've got within your postcode area.
All right.
And your job every 4 weeks was to go and, at 4 weeks was to go and collect the premiums. So you literally collected the premiums. Now, before I'd started doing recruitment for them, I used to...
I'm just going to pause. I think a lot of people are probably watching this now have just joined the advisory world, maybe have just, become a paraplanner, a financial advisor, probably thinking, wow, wild, wild west.
It was the Wild West. And then the Wild West back in 89, when I got in the industry, there's about circa 220,000 agents.
Yeah.
So we think about that number now and roll it back to 30, 31.
Completely different.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like people were going from being milkmen to being agents.
I know. I've heard, not to listen to the companies we spoke about, but, I've heard of obviously people come from engineers, mechanic, car mechanics. Yeah. Brilliant salespeople, though.
Yes, 100%.
And I think obviously it's another big sector part of the industry is one, have sales and be sales driven, but also have a different touch to it too.
It was the Wild West. It was, the products were endowment led, so high cost at the front end.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's like shouldn't say De Vere Partners, but De Vere over in there.
Yeah.
So a guy stood by my desk one day and said, Charles, I've heard that you're good at squash. And he's the new HR director, just coming from Zurich. I said, I'm not bad at squash, but I don't take fools gladly. Can you play? Because I'm not going to waste my time if you can't play. His name was Jeremy Rance, one of my mentors. Right. When we talk about mentors. We played that evening. I beat him too badly. But he said, I'm starting a headhunting team for Pearl. Because we're spending so much on external agencies. I want a team of 6 of you to go around, and because we've got big growth targets. We've got to recruit 250.
KPIs must have been crazy. Big
KPIs. So we ended up headhunting. I ended up becoming okay at it. But at the end of 2002, Pearl went, and then I took the option to start Pearl. I had 3 kids under the age of 2 at that stage.
Wow.
But I took a significant redundancy package from Pearl when it all went, and I decided that I can do it. I can do it. Just go, just crack on and see what we do.
Do you think being in the Air Force helped with also a stronger mentality side of it? Learned you guys to be an individual, to be a man, a breadwinner of some sort, to not just provide for the family, but just in life in general?
I went into the Air Force as a boy, and I came out as a man. That's 17, 18. I thought I knew everything. I was arrogant. I was sort of like, I'm the big guy. But in the Air Force, everyone in rank above you is your boss.
Yeah.
So you'll never win. You just don't win. You understand that you learn to listen. And if you don't listen properly, you don't act properly, then you get punished. And it used to be called jankers, where you ended up I couldn't get home at weekends, or you had to paint these stupid white lines along the airway or whatever it was.
Right.
But it just taught you that, you can't always win in life, and just step back and listen a bit more. It took 100%. A lot of the arrogance off me. Air Force was great for me. It was great for me. I'm a big advocate of national service, if let the truth be told.
Obviously, being South African, my dad was in the Air Force as well, and I think we mentioned this in the previous call. And he can probably replicate or duplicate exactly what you said about the Air Force, or just the Army in general, which are a completely different side. But I think the things you learn from committing to some of those things, yes, there are pros and cons. But a lot of individuals who come out of this stuff have really high level of manners and morals and a strong mentality to life. But obviously, you said you're a big book reader too, and we spoke about various books as well, about just life in general and how you should grasp various aspects in life and have different perspectives.
Yes.
I like using the word stoicism or being stoic or stoic, which is a big aspect which I think you actually have massively, and you're probably a very stoic person yourself. Obviously having kids around that time, going through redundancy package, starting your own business, around that 2002 time, must have been quite difficult and quite tough on you as an individual. And then to establish it all and go and do it, 20, 30 years later, here we are.
But you know what you know, don't you? So we took the view that I think Pearl gave me about an £80,000 redundancy.
Right.
So I thought, wow, okay, that's a chunk of money.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen to me? I can do it and not be successful. Well, I'm successful just pushing one product, Pearl. So I've now got excuse me, 10 clients.
Yeah.
So can I take the success I had at Pearl and can I take that into running my own business? To me, it was a no-brainer. It was just a no-brainer because I'm going to work. I'm going to work hard. I've always grafted. So it's simplicity to me. Can I now provide for 10 clients? So before I knew it, after 4 weeks, I'd had an incredible amount of money and success.
Yeah.
And before I know about it, I'm recruiting Martin, my operations director, who was walking along the high street. I said, Martin, there's a little job here. It's relatively simple. I've got it structured. I've got these clients, and then I'll teach you how to do it. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And up until 2007, it was flying. I was in Antigua twice a year, and I thought I cracked this gig. But then we got the great, I call it the Great Depression, but 2007, 2008 were brutal for us.
And also, I think, obviously escaped just the dot-com bubble back in 2000 as well.
Yeah.
And obviously 2008, wasn't a great period for many investors.
It was difficult for the marketplace. And then after that, we got RDR. So Retail Distribution Review, 2012,
2013, 2012, yeah.
And when the banks went out, so my biggest clients in 2005, 6 and 7 was Santander, Barclays, HSBC. They were recruiting financial advisors, as was the title, in droves.
Well,
they were.
I think just quickly, Charles, I think it's important to just tell, obviously, listeners that pre-RDR is obviously that retail distribution review.
Yes.
And obviously now, a few years later, now I think Consumer Duty.
Yep.
But back then, it was just based off the way advice was paid on commission basis. And they've had to overhaul that completely because all it was commission.
Yeah.
Obviously, that got implemented, and it was just a small sector of the financial advisory world. I know we're going to get into the conversation later in the podcast, but then Consumer Duty came ahead now, where it's the whole thing, the whole shebang. It's everything from how you treat the customer, how the fees, how the letters go.
Yeah.
But anyway, then you said, pre-RDR happening in 2013 as well, and it kind of slowed down a bit.
Yeah, well, the banks went. And we all
thought no more commission.
The banks went. The banks were paying 30k base, but they still geared up the commission. Instead of people in the banks like Barclays earning 6 figures all day long. And out of nowhere, we thought the market's going to change because it's going to not be welcoming to St. James's Place, the self-employed guys. But it grew. St. James's grew, open work grew.
Surprisingly so, yeah.
Yeah, and then
I think adapt or die mentality, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But we couldn't believe it. And there's some unbelievable successful people who are running their own self-employed business in what is it feels like a cottage industry, because there's just, like we talked about, there's 5,000 firms. There used to be 7,000, 8,000 firms. Yeah. And these are one-man band, two-man bands who are absolutely doing the ongoing, the upfront commission.
Yeah, the initials,
followed by the ongoing.
Yeah.
It's double bubble. It's a great place to be if you've got it right and you've got a loyal client bank and you're providing a service to them.
Rightly so, yeah. I think obviously through our experience and where you got up to now, from obviously 2003, you established the business. You've seen 2007, you've seen pre-RDR in 2013. And it's now Focus Selection. It's had its years.
Yes.
When did that name change happen from previously? Was it always been Focus Selection since 2003 or?
Yes, 2003 we called it Focus Social Selection. I was made redundant the year before.
Yeah.
And I used to have the business was just like Charles Walker.
Right.
And I thought we've got to have a name.
Man.
Yeah, got to have a name. So my best mate, Colin Medwinter, he had a business called Focus Business Media. And the deal was you join, have your name Focus Search and Selection. You can have all of the infrastructure of Focus Business Media free of charge for 6 months.
Wow.
So telephone, office space, all of it. So we did that deal. And then that's why I called about. I give him a couple of quid. I give him 5% share of the business, which I sold to him after. Bought him out after about 2 years. And then we moved on. But that's the reason why it's called Focus, because I could sort of like reverse everything and use his infrastructure.
And it's a clever idea as well, isn't it? So obviously here we are, 2025, beginning of the year. Obviously your team is built up with obviously some of your sons in there as well. And the team itself individually, have also been by your side for quite a while.
Yes.
And there's a quote that you wrote down, and it's this speaks on one of the pages, is having the right people is paramount, not just for you, but for us also.
100%.
And I think that obviously speaks to the team you recruit. Will help you do the recruitment sections on Focus Selection, but also when you get candidates to come in that you obviously have to look for jobs into various recruitment sections, they also need to be right for you. And I think having that, I think you've mentioned it before, having a selective type of process is also really crucial in the recruitment world. especially for you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and for success going forward. Focus selection obviously has been now around for a few long time. How's the mission the focus selection as a team have, and what the team that you put together to help with recruitment? It's various aspects, isn't it? It's not just financial planning, it's legals, it's processing, it's
business
fintech,
finance intermediary, payment solutions, mortgage intermediary, mortgage lenders. But it sounds bigger than it is. The real focus, excuse the pun, the real focus of focus is having maybe between 6 and 10 clients within each vertical.
Right.
Because you can't be all things to all people.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
You just can't be.
Yeah.
So we'll look at having 6 to 10 clients in the wealth, which we call wealth management.
Yeah.
Because typically we want to provide a partnership. So we're all about partnership and relationship.
Okay.
So we could have 20 clients, 30 clients. I mean, there's 5,000 in the marketplace.
When you look at big recruitment firms, they overdo it by nearly 500 clients per person, basically. Yeah.
But it never becomes a partnership. It becomes a transaction. So I'll be ringing up a candidate on behalf of your business. I need to know your business. I need to know it intimately. I need to know where it's going. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to encourage someone to join a business that I know nothing about, because that's just giving him a job. We're committed to finding people careers. So our first conversation should be, help me understand what you're trying to achieve out of your career, Mr. Candidate. That's it. It's not about, I've got a job.
Yeah.
So what do you want to achieve? Because if we get that match right, we've had 16 rebates. Rebate means a candidate's joined the business and they've left within 3 months. We've had 16 out of just shy of 2,000 starters in 22 years. And that's because we match it. You got to do the matching.
But I think, Charles, not to I think it speaks to the success of the person you are and the people you put together as a firm. To also pick the right candidates, but also do the right job.
Yes.
And you obviously take a lot of pride in that as an individual. And you speak a lot, the way you hold yourself across, you bring yourself across as an individual, speaks a lot for not just you, but also the firm.
I care about the candidate, because here's the deal. This is where people get it wrong. The client will pay me money, but if I put a candidate into the wrong place and that candidate leaves within 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, I'm disrupting that candidate's life. So I've got to do my due diligence on the client. Culture, environment, how they manage people, the respect they've got for people. What are they about as an organisation? Because if I put the wrong person into they're going to leave. They're not going to thank me for leaving. So we tried to avoid that. We tried to get a real deep understanding about what's important for you as a client. What don't you want in your business? And that's really important for us. We're trying to do the alignment really early, as opposed to, here's a CV.
Yeah.
Which means we recruit less because we don't throw mud against the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we listen truthfully, like I said to you earlier, we listen what our clients want. What do you want from this person?
Yeah. A heart listener, like you mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. What do you want?
Heart listener. It sounds like obviously it's very different to what a lot of people think some recruitment firms are, especially yourself, where, it's more people focused, orientated, such that advisory will too. It's a people's business at the end of the day, right?
Ultimately.
And there's only so many Charles Walker, there's only so Joe Blogs, there's only so one person. And you definitely take pride in looking after a selective group of candidates. I really appreciate you telling me much about focus selection, how you built up, where you started from the Air Force, where you got to now, how you built up. You went through, 2007, 2013, all the rest. I think a lot of the questions will be around, any individuals going to the advisory world.
Yes.
And I think you're in the perfect position to almost give them a little insight, a little taste, or a little mental aspect of what it means on a recruitment base and what they should look for, etc. Not just for individuals applying for jobs in the financial sector, but also how firms try to approach recruitment too. So it almost gives you a double-edged sword. So
it's a difficult one, because the larger the firms, so if we say SJP, let's name some names, or we say Open Work or whatever. So
it's the big well-known names. Yeah.
They've got their academies.
Yeah.
And their academies are stellar.
Of course,
they put them through a really robust process, and at the end of it, they come out, they either become self-employed running their own entity, or they reverse them into one of the existing practices within St. James's Place. So that's kind of like where we're at with it. What we try to do is we try to work with the SME organisations.
SME being the small, medium, micro enterprises.
I would say micro being the word.
Micro, right.
Because less than, what's that, less than 20, less than 30?
Less than 3 employees, yeah.
3?
3 or 20?
Yeah, 20. Okay, yeah.
So it goes to 20.
So I would say the majority sit below that. And I'd say they're typically always looking for, if there's an IFA what's the average age of an IFA? 50, 58, 59, whatever you want to say. If they're looking for a retirement strategy, then typically they want to bring on someone in the capacity as the financial administrator, with a view to maybe going through the gears to a paraplanner. And then after they've done their exams, therefore going to be, it's a really good company called DGS IFA.
Right.
DGS IFA, they'll employ you as a financial administrator and they'll sponsor you through your diploma, 2 years. Then they'll have you as a paraplanner, 2 years typically, and then they'll have you as an advisor. So it's a 4 year.
So learn all the technical, learn all the administrative. And
while you're a paraplanner, you're looking after the clients.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you're looking after the clients.
Because obviously most people's opinion of paraplanners is the brains behind the advisor doing all the technical aspects, which is another discussion. I think it's really important. Let's kind of build up what we think the trend is in the market at the moment. Yep. On a regulatory perspective, we touched on pre-RDR, and I mentioned with consumer duty. So a big thing, a big change. Yes, I think everyone will agree to it. I think there's two aspects to it. Obviously some firms, when the FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, brought in the consumer duty, they looked not just at a small section of financial service, they looked at everything. Yeah. And I think some companies got irritated because some companies are doing all the right things, but then obviously some companies that might not be doing the right things. They put everyone in the same, pigeonholed everyone in the same category. But it's very interesting. And I think it's in our financial advisory business, I think a new financial advisory business getting set up is definitely something that you should put into thinking first. It's the client first, and then the process is second. Yep. And obviously what some firms did, obviously they put the process first, client second. But if you can build your whole process around the client and then add on to that, it makes a world's big difference, because then you get away from all those questionings. And
the thing they did really well, I think the FCA, they went to the biggest elephant in the room, which is St. James's Place. And when you get St. James's Place putting 420 million aside, that's a huge statement. It's just a phenomenal thing for them to do. You
can put Quilt in one of those as well.
Yes. Yeah. So all of a sudden now, people have got to sit up straight. Because if they're going to knock the big guy down, they're going to certainly knock the small guy down.
100%.
Yeah. So it's
sometimes you think that it's the other way around. They go for the small guys, leave the big guys to do what they need to do.
They've done it really well, and they've made a ripple in the marketplace that we're serious.
Yeah.
Client outcomes is important.
Yeah. But I think it's a good thing on a client basis, because clients are now aware that financial advisory firms, if they have the regulatory FCA regulation, they bottom their footer, that they are compliant with the consumer duty, and every single bit of advice that is implemented has to be on the best outcome of the client.
100%.
Yeah. And I think it's a good thing for advisory firms. It's more of a harder version of RDR in
it's
the
making
degree.
People. It's about the advice gap, isn't it? We're trying to make the advice gap a lot smaller, and not a lot bigger. And I kind of guess, like I read somewhere where there was a reasonable percentage, 22% of clients of IFA firms didn't have an ongoing review.
Yes.
Typically didn't have an ongoing review for years.
Yeah.
So they've taken the ongoing fee.
Yeah, but no review.
No review. Yeah. And it's tightened that up on itself, which is great.
I think in theory now, on the rule of thumb, it's an annual basis, isn't it? Yeah. Maybe you miss about a few weeks on an annual basis, but an annual basis, maybe pushing a year and a half, but annual basis should be what it should be. I think going on to it really shifts clients' expectations. I spoke about consumer duty, best outcome for the client. We spoke about, back in the past, back in the 90s, it was very commission based, or even early 2000s. And you see a lot of, you said, we're having mechanics, we're having various individuals come to advisory world, and then they got taught the trade through various firms back then. I think that aids as well. We need to speak a bit about the age demographic of the financial advisory sector. I looked earlier on Financial Times. It was something like 50% of advisors in the UK are above the age of 50 and plus.
Yes.
Which is a huge demographic, because if you think in theory, everyone's about 55, they're about, 15 plus years to retirement. So it's a huge gap to fill. I think we mentioned as well about there's quite a small percentage of advisors below that, below 30, below 20.
Below 25,
It gets even scarier. One-digit percentages, basically. Yes. Single-digit percentages, my bad.
But did I read that the 59 to 65, that group, or that cohort of financial planners, aren't resigning at the rate you'd imagine they are. They're not retiring. It's a slow burn because the numbers remain around about 5,800, 6,000 companies and 31,000 RIs, registered individuals. So if you've got this big cohort at the top end resigning, then you sit down and think, well, great, they've got to be increasing the youth, the young guys, or girls, sub-30s. So something's staying stagnant still.
It's very almost like an inverse choice, isn't it? It's really top heavy and very low at the bottom.
Which is changing gradually.
It is changing gradually. And there's a lot of very special companies out there that are trying to do this, to bring in, graduates into the industry and all the rest. I just want to go on the aspects of the trend. So it goes on about the demographics changing. We're trying to bring in younger people into the financial advisory sector. We put the 20s or 30s. It's now in a stage where the UK is going to get one of the biggest generational transfers ever. So 1 trillion to 5 trillion in the next 2 decades. And I think with this whole financial advisory sector, it's a very exciting sector to be in because there's a lot of money that's going to be flowing around, hopefully, in the next 2 years. Put away the Gen Z and millennial thinking of things, which we've spoken very deeply about. So it's all very interesting, a very, very interesting landscape at the moment.
But is a challenge not, are my kids who fall into that category, are they going to go to Mr. IFA? Or are they going to go to Mr. Instagram or Mr. TikTok? Or what's going to drive them? Where do they see their logical place to go and take advice about financials? Because there is a viewpoint that they're doing that off platforms as much as they're doing it on
robo-advice and Nutmeg and all these on.
Correct. Because if we talk around about 11% of the UK use an IFA.
A change, that's a very good point. So I think 2023, I think it's EY said it was 11%, and now it's gone down to 9% of the population.
So you sit down and think about, by virtue of it, and you've got 81% not using. And there's a massive opportunity. Look at it 2 ways. That's pretty poor, but equally it's a massive opportunity.
100%.
So how do we embrace that? And how do the 20 to 35-year-olds, why aren't they using IFA? So for me, every one of my 4 kids knows my IFA. And he knows them, and rightly so. He should have sent them a card for birthdays because he's good at what he does. So they know that if there's a financial need, they talk to my IFA. But not everyone's like that. But my oldest son, Solomon, he would sooner go to TikTok or platform or one of his mates and chase a cryptocurrency all day long before he even thought about putting his £1,000 into anything like an ISA. He wouldn't have that conversation. He just wouldn't have it. He said, Dad, that's all old school. So I think there's a real opportunity for the industry to work out how do we educate. So there's some stuff being done by the CII, which is brilliant. They're into schools. They're into schools from the age of 13 now and getting financial planning at the forefront of schools. They've done about 2,500 now.
I've seen a lot of kind of advisory firms going to different universities as well and doing some lectures and giving more like a financial education of some sort. And that's a small little seed of, what is a financial plan or what is it?
Correct.
I was saying that as well. I think it's changed as well because the thing is, I think our generation, the Gen Z, the millennials, and the new generation, what it's called
Your
now.
generation ain't my generation.
We're very probably not risk adverse. We're more risk takers.
Correct.
But I think it's also because everything is so fast paced. Everything's so quick. Everything is so accessible. Everything is there. So the information we're taking through, I guess, our brains or eyes are so quick. I mean, if you think about it, you're able to go through slides and slides and slides through Instagram and TikTok and X, formerly Twitter, and all the rest. Everything is so visually there in front of you that you can pick up in small bits, and it's a dopamine rush, isn't it? Taking a risk of doing a small trade. You have no clue what you're doing. You might be doing a trade called options or derivatives, and no one knows how risky it is because you didn't think about it. You just saw someone's making a 10 multiple.
We had a client of mine 4 years ago, and he had this whatever he had, and I bought into it. I literally bought into it. It's some crypto nonsense, and I literally did $5,000 myself. Did $1,000 for each of my kids and $3,000 for my wife. No, anyway, I did about 10 grand in it, and you literally every day would get onto it, would have a look at it, and would see the money we was making. At day 23. I'd got my $5,000 back. My wife had got a £3,000 back and the kids had got their £1,000 back. So we're now in profit.
Right. You've analysed the gains. Yeah.
Human nature. I think great this is. By Christmas, I could have 500,000.
That's what everyone thinks. That's what I think as well if I do a bit of trading myself.
Yeah. By Christmas. Day 32, it'd gone. It'd blown up. We lost all of our money.
Wow.
But my kids would sooner, and this is the bit which I struggle with, my kids would sooner go and put another £1,000, £2,000 into that in the hope of it being a multiplier of a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, rather than it being a 4%, a 5%, a 6%.
You see, this gets very debatable. There's a fine boundary between the two of I do it myself or I go through a financial planner.
Yeah.
We can speak for hours and hours about this, but in a nutshell, a financial planner has to be regulated by the FCA.
Correct.
Okay. So every decision they make is either through consumer duty or through some regulatory stance.
Yes.
The various FCA source books. Where if you do it yourself, you're obviously taking the gamble, DIY risk. Because the thing is, what you're trying to fight for, what you're trying to gain is a dopamine rush. Is that what it is? It's a dopamine rush. So do you go the route of a financial planner hoping to earn, annualized modest gain? Or you go down the route of trying to, win a mansion basically on a one flip. And that's probably the biggest problem with our generation. But it's just an educative thing, I think, as well. Because, I've spoken to many people in the industry, and a lot of the time it's the people, I say the fin influencers, like you mentioned, the people that are giving away this education. Because you also need to see the people who are giving away these various educational talks and courses, what's their commercial benefit too? And a lot of times we don't think one step further, one step ahead. We see it as face value. We don't think, what is that person's benefit? Oh, they're telling us all these wonderful things. Okay, I'm going to go put my money where I want to put my money. But what's their benefit? Because they're saying it for a reason, for an ulterior motive.
There's going to be a couple of good things. I think that the FCA have put a guidance note down, but there's been only Essex. I didn't even know these programs exist, but only Essex and Love Island. There's two of them who have recently been charged by the FCA.
Wow.
So they are looking at a potential 2-year custodial sentence because they backed the platform on their 50,000 Instagram account, which people have gone to.
Some trading platform.
Platform.
But you see, it's common everywhere. It's in football, in rugby,
you
in
see it all
sports
around,
studies, everything. Yeah,
subliminal messaging.
Exactly.
And everyone sees I'm making money. So my kids sit down and think, Dad, why would I want to do that when it makes that? I want more risk, Dad. I want more risk because more risk gives me more upside.
You touched on not exactly paraphrasing now, the old ways or whatever you're mentioning about the ISA, and then you can go and do your own financial, either go put your money in ISA or go in crypto. I think is a reason why it works is because don't reinvent the wheel, right? The old ways of doing financial plan, doing advice, risk targeted strategies, various, we can go into detail with it. Saying that as well on one more aspect about the landscape, tech has become a very big thing. We talk about the trading platforms and stuff, this whole robo-advice, but on a financial planning perspective, on these FCA regulated firms, a lot of tech has come into the industry.
I got told today by the guys at Ningi, Jim, that the average IFA firm has between 10 and 20 tech stacks.
Wow.
I just can't get to that number because I thought everyone used intelligent office.
But
and kind of like, but it's kind of like all the plugins.
It's all the plugins. So obviously the issue with that on AI and just the various CRM systems that financial planning advisory firms use. It's the CRM system's brilliant, but then they're also outsourcing their plugins, like you mentioned. So you end up having 15 different things on top of each other, and sometimes they don't all work. You have to still externally go out of the program.
There's an opportunity there.
Yes, we know various individuals trying to chase that opportunity.
Yes.
So, but I think if it was easy, everyone would do it, right?
100%.
So it's trying to make a product that works in efficiency. Because if everyone could do it, everyone would be doing it, wouldn't they? So it's trying to find the right market. Talking about AI, I think it's an interesting aspect in the market. And you mentioned earlier when you were speaking that I don't necessarily see it as something that's going to make necessarily some job redundancy in the financial advisory world, but create efficiency.
Correct. Yeah, it's an enabler, isn't it? So for me, it's
an enabler. Yes.
Wonderful around reports and wonderful around notes.
Accuracy.
Yeah. I think you've got to be really careful with the accuracy because sometimes it just goes just goes wild.
But that's why you need a person to put the data input in the beginning.
100%. Yeah. And also the person to proofread it at the end of it.
But AI can't do that.
No.
Maybe later in the future, but you still need that human element.
It should make the process quicker.
Yeah.
But you've got to validate it, would be my view.
100%.
And it's kind of like tip of the iceberg. Where AI will be in 5 years will be frightening. For all of us in every industry, it's going to have an effect.
I mean, you look at, I think, let's give the biggest one, ChatGPT, for example.
Yes.
I think, I do a bit of coding myself and Excel spreadsheets and all the rest. And the efficiency is created for me to get an outcome. Instead of, spending 2-3 days, I've been able to get codes in, 15 seconds.
Wow.
So I think it's definitely an enabler and an efficiency maker of more than anything else. Because the beauty of it now is instead of spending, a week on one task, I can put in 3 tasks in my 100%. Week. And I can get more done. So for me, it's definitely made me more efficient. I think most people that have used AI for that reason has also seen the benefit of it too. But for financial planning perspective, I think it's also a great benefit. I think clients definitely shouldn't be scared about it.
Nope.
They should probably just see it more as the firm trying to create more efficiency and more, I guess, accuracy and stuff, but more accurate data and more evidence to the client too. Because you can do a lot more and a lot quicker. So instead of waiting, 2-3 weeks to receive various documentation, you can hopefully receive it within a week or 2 days or 1 day.
It's literally, in our world, recruitment, I can now take your LinkedIn bio and I can put it into our ChatGPT AI ATS that we use.
Software, yeah.
And I can just say, find me 10 of these. Find me 10 Jordans.
That's ridiculous, wow.
And like machine learning, it'll look at you and it will give me the 10 best and 9 best matches to exactly what you've got, down to rugby. Down to rugby.
The very minute detail.
Yeah, because I want it as close as possible. Wow. And they'll say to me, here's a likely 9. So straight away, if I know you're my client's preferred candidate, Christ, this is easy. I mean, I'm going to find another 9 that are very close to it.
Find a 9 of us.
Yeah. And it happens in 15 seconds.
That's ridiculous. But it shows the efficiency, isn't it?
Yes, brilliant.
It's all efficiency. Brilliant. So we've spoken about the landscape and the financial service. You spoke about consumer duty, you spoke about AI, you spoke about tech, I spoke about generational wealth transfer coming into advisory world. So as a firm, you see all the stuff about the generational wealth transfer thing. I think some firms are quite excited of the money that could potentially see as a beneficial thing. I know we spoke that only 9% of people in the UK are using advisors.
Yes.
And you can look at the bad part and the good part. On the good part, I mean, there's 91% or 89% of people not using advisors.
Correct.
So get an advisor.
Yes. Yeah.
But on a firm level, so you said you work in something directly with the firms themselves to find the right candidates. When firms come to you and they look for candidates, is there quite a shortage in the financial planning world, especially financial advice? So paraplanners, individual financial advisors and financial planning administrators. Is it difficult to find a candidate for that role?
Let me give you some examples. We had a client only today phone to say, Charles, can you find me someone for Sunderland? So they've had a vacancy in Sunderland. They've done Indeed themselves. So they've used every LinkedIn messaging. They've tried everything they can to directly source it, but they can't find that individual because they're looking for someone who's got 5 years financial service experience. Now, the reality of that situation is that person's probably within the 15 companies that are within a 10-mile radius, and they're probably happy where they are or content, just use the word, but they're not disturbed. Our job is to kind of like find one of those 15 people and see if the world where they're in, if we can take them to a different world with better benefits, with better environment, with better culture. That's kind of like what we do. We have never had as much opportunity as we have now in my 22 years in business.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In the wealth market.
Right. So it's not necessarily a shortage, just find the right candidates out of that capacity.
Correct. It's our world works on growth or change.
Yeah.
And we've got both at the moment.
I was going to say.
We got both at the moment. It's a great environment, but it's lacking talent. There isn't sufficient talent in the marketplace. There's not sufficient. COVID has really made it a challenging market because
regarding to the hybrid model working.
Correct. You got
that's everyone thinks about it straight away, don't they?
You got it. We probably had 3 or 4 fees that we've lost this year because the candidates want hybrid. And it's not even it is critical. It's beyond critical. Not even at the end of their probation period. They want it from the get-go. Day one.
It's an interesting conversation, that, isn't it? As a recruiter, if you're going for an interview with a client, and that's the first thing you say to the recruiter, saying, "Oh, just FYI, I can't do 5 days a week in the office."
I say straight away to our guys, you need to establish that point. It's because it's what's important to them, the candidate. The candidate says, I have to work from home because I've got a cockapoo dog.
Yeah.
And for 2 days of the week, I want to walk my dog and I want to play with my dog. Yeah. And you're never going to move. Even $5,000 more is not going to shift that.
Yeah.
So we've got to understand from a client what degree of flexibility they've got, because it's gone from sort of like a hybrid to work flexibility, they call it now. So some
work flexibility, yeah.
Some of our clients are saying, we'll be flexible.
Or work with WFH, work from home, or wherever it is.
Yeah, we'll be flexible with it. We'll allow you, if you've got to do the dentist, if you've got to do this, you've got to do a school run, we'll be flexible about how we treat you. But equally, we want you ideally in the office 5 days a week. That's becoming more of a standard conversation in financial services, wealth management firms. That's our experience, particularly for paraplanners, administrators. For financial planners, they're
definitely, yeah. And I think another part of that as well is that when you just start out in the financial advisory sector, you kind of want to be in the office. You want to hear the acronyms getting thrown around the 100%. Office. You want to get all the terms. You want to hear about how an advisor handles a client, or how service manager or account manager looks after their various clients. At Zomi Wealth, funny enough, we actually want candidates to come into office Monday to Friday. Probably will eventually allow that section of hybrid odd working. But I think when you come into the industry, it's so important you grasp your knowledge and you gain all that knowledge from hearing it from the horse's mouth, they say, straight from the individual, until you can kind of earn that distinctive reputation that you know what you're doing. And that has just happened overnight. It takes a year or two, even 3.
I look at my daughter. She's a mortgage advisor and she sits in a study at home.
Right.
7 days a week, 5 days a week with headphones on. Never goes to a team. That's a lie. Goes to a team meeting once a month. There is no growth of the team.
Yeah.
It's her individually doing her job and she does it exceptionally well. But if I take that to where I was when I was at Pearl, the amount I learned from just bouncing with colleagues was an incredible amount. But she's in isolation. She's isolated and she's got headphones on and she's doing her one job, validating mortgages for the clients.
I think for mental health is a big aspect as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
For myself as well, also a very deep conversation, but being around people was such a great benefit. It really is. Even if you're not talking about yourself or you're trying to boast about something, just being around laughter, being around both 100%. Jokes, being around some banter of some sort, it helps.
In my opinion, we've got an office. I live 3 miles away and I've got a big office, 2,000 square feet of office space, 5-6 people. That office space allows us to escape from our homes, because I don't like my home being my office.
Okay.
I've got sufficient space there, but I don't like that. For me, I'd rather go to an office, physically go. A lot of our clients are of that same mindset.
All right.
Let's get them into the office, particularly if they're administrators. Let's get them into the office 5 days a week. So our first challenge becomes, we've got to draw a radius. How long does it take for the commute? Because if it's a 2-hour commute, no one's going to go on a 2-hour commute. It's 4 hours a day. Why would you do that? So that drives us with our clients to go in Sunday. We've got to find the 15 companies where it's a half-hour commute. It's reasonable half-hour commute, free car parking. But you are starting looking at the hygiene factors. What does the individual want versus what's against what the client's offering? And it is that, and your talent pool goes from 6 clients, 6 candidates in the pipeline down to 1, because only 1's prepared to go to Cavendish Square.
Yeah, I know.
5 aren't. They're just not. And therefore, the client's saying, give me some more candidates, give me some more candidates. So I'm saying, well, hang on, guys. We can only give you what's available.
And it's true, And traveling also, I mean, various living costs and expenses now, it adds up massively, depending on the very zones you're traveling in from to in London. And I think not a lot of companies take it into perspective too.
No.
Being a firm, and let's say you recruit various financial planners, paraplanners, you have a good team, you have, say, about 10, 15 employees. Do you think some firms struggle with retention, keeping in individuals there?
What I've noticed over the past year or two, if there's been an acquisition, then the new management come in, or they bring in their new culture.
Yeah. Then it's a different question.
Yeah, often when turnover of staff happens. So we track that. We've got some software that tracks that, which companies have been bought out. And we can track that because there's always going to be 20-25% of people, because it's a new dawn, isn't it? It's like rugby. You get a new coach comes in, the new coach doesn't fancy you.
Recruits loads of new individuals.
Yes. You know, he takes the 5 people out that he doesn't think are right for him.
Change of coaches as well.
Correct.
Change of staff, same the way. It's all. Yeah. And I think it's a sad thing as well, because sometimes, obviously, when you're a firm for many, many years, it's a beautiful thing as well, right? Because you get used to the ways, I wouldn't say complacent.
Yes.
But you get used to the ways of things. And when a new M&A firm, merger and acquisition firm comes in, they change the whole dynamics, bring in a whole board team, everything changes.
Why would they keep it the same? They're there, whether they're private equity, whether they're family office, they're there to make money. They're there to return on their investment.
100%.
Yeah, it's 100%. Not a charity.
Yeah.
And to do that, you've got to shake it a bit.
100%.
Yeah.
Obviously, firms, that have been long-standing, and some firms did very, very well. What different succession planning have some firms put into place to make sure that, obviously, advisors stay there, but when the advisors, like we said about demographics, have to retire at some point, what do you think some firms put in place to almost get rid of that?
I think from my experience that they'll recruit someone. We've got a firm at the moment, it's linked to an accountancy firm in sort of South Lincolnshire. The directors leave in that business within the next year. So they've asked us now to start looking for a chartered financial planner. But yet again, it's got to be 5 days a week in the office.
Right.
Yeah. So, and because they've got a client bank or a book of clients already, doesn't need to bring anything. But we found that to be incredibly challenging vacancy, purely on the basis that to find someone to work 5 days a week in the office is proving to be, as a financial planner, is proving to be very difficult.
Would you agree that almost, a lot of advisors that sometimes are quite, it's more than just chartered, very overqualified, or chartered is the benchmark. Some of those advisors are on the older demographic.
Yes.
So that life balance doesn't necessarily suit them to come into that Monday to Fridays every day in the office.
If you can manage your clients, if you've got a book of 150 clients and they've got, I don't know, 50 million AUMs, and you're getting yourself an ongoing fee off the back of it, so you're earning, before you got out of bed, 80,000 quid. And then how much do you need to grow that every year?
No, I know, that's good. That's a good living.
Yeah, you've got a good living. You've got a good living, and you've also got a good balance of life.
Rightly so.
Yeah, you can probably work full out 3 days. You've got 2 days off, which you're sort of like managing half days here.
Rightly so.
And it's a good quality of life. That's why I don't believe, people think that there's going to be this outflow of people retiring between the ages of 55 and 65. I think if they've got the right balance of their life, I think them guys are going to hold on to their jobs. Yeah, because it's kind of like going off the cliff edge and retiring with nothing to do and no purpose is difficult for a lot of people who have been active for 40 years.
Especially, I think, being surrounded by all those clients, because it's a people's business, isn't it? And you're so used to those. Some clients obviously keep clients as friends for life, or obviously there's a professional standard to it. But obviously you surrounded your last 30, 40 years with the same client. I mean, you could probably see their family at some point.
Well, there's an IFA in the village, 2 villages down, Brian Clive Wright. He's 82 years of age. He's had his clients for 40, 50 years. And his health's in good health. Right. So he's no longer got 100 clients. He might just work with 25, 30.
Right.
So he's got 2 days a week. It's cerebrally good for him.
Of course,
He's adding value. He's doing something good for society. It gives him a purpose. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Why would he want to jack that in for? What to replace it with what?
No, of course. I think, Honest Choice, you give us a good outlook at, how firms set themselves up and what they look for, and how they obviously get various retention, or what they look for recruitment, and how the industry is looking. If you're a new individual into the financial advisory world, okay, whether you're young, you're just starting, you're 30, it doesn't matter what age. Let's say, you're just going into the sector. Put aside some qualifications on skills and attributes and just being you as a good person. What do some of these firms look for as you as an individual if you want to go into this advisory sector?
I think anyone who says that there's not got to be some level of familiarity with maths is deluding themselves. So you've got to have some understanding of basic maths. I think you've got
analytical skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to have good social skills. You've got to care. You've got to really care about individuals and people, because you're dealing in the ultimate people industry, and you've got to be trustworthy. And good empathy is really important. There's soft skills. We talked about emotional intelligence. I think they're really important ultimately, They're really important in this industry because I'm allowing you to come into
100%.
my life and talk to my family about our financial needs for a lifetime. I don't want that to be a spreadsheet. I want you to understand who I am, what I'm about, what am I trying to achieve, how am I protecting my family, how am I helping my family grow. So I think when you strip away the academia, which is important,
of course,
it's important. You have the ability to learn, to do chartered or to do diploma. It's not a walk in the park. You know, you've got to be ready for it, and you've got to be able to add value to somebody's life. But above all, you've got to care about that person.
I agree. I think you also mentioned on another phone call, you said working in the financial advisory sector, you have to be a life learner.
Yes.
That's another big attribute you have to have, because let's use a simple analogy. Every April tax changes, don't they? Every April tax changes.
Yep.
So that's one element. I spoke to another individual. We were doing various interview assessments, and going into financial planning industry, you have to love it. You have to actually enjoy it, because the thing is, obviously, there is money. There's a very lot of good money in the industry. There's a lot of good money in the industry.
Yep.
But the thing is, people burn themselves out and they just go for chase the money.
Yep.
Because there's so much more to it. You have to know about the latest pension, the latest investment ideas, the latest analysis, the latest, talk to BDMs, talk to whoever it might be. It's an everyday job.
No 2 days are the same.
I think it's a saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree.
Which is obviously, I think you definitely
I couldn't agree with it
one
more.
for that.
If you end up having these 100 people that trust you and they trust your judgment, and you're looking out for them and their wife and their kids and their bloody cockapoo dog, and you're doing what you do to give them a life which is better, because you're taking control of that finance, you're taking that away from me. I'm thinking that Jordan's taking care of it. Jordan knows ultimately what I want to achieve out of my financial standing in this world, and he's going to guide me. Because if not, it's the DIY brigade.
Yeah, we spoke about it. There's a very dark hole to go down to.
Yeah. I see that 9 or 11%, whatever it is, I see that growing. Yeah. Because of transfer of wealth, there's going to be people sitting there with absolutely hundreds of thousands of pounds.
No clue what to do with it.
Not a Scooby-Doo. The challenge for the industry is, how do we get these young people who are prepared to look at TikTok and Instagram and take steer from them? How do we get that 11 or 9%, whichever it is? How do we get that to be 20%? How do we grow that?
100%.
Some of the good things we're doing in schools to educate people about the industry, and equally women in the industry from a diversity and perspective, equity perspective, it's really important, equality perspective, it's really important that we grow that arm, which is growing, which is fortunate. And equally from a diversity perspective, we need to have people who are more diverse.
100%.
Yeah, because it feels like if I went to these 5,000 websites and I could trigger all of them and just said, how many of these are sort of like 45 to 60, middle class and white? It can like be a huge number.
No, like not even to get too debatable on the topic, just it's very true. I completely agree with you. We're speaking about obviously one of our management as well. You don't necessarily see people of color in the advisory world, and I think
very few.
I think very few, yes. And I think it's definitely a sector that needs more prominence, but it doesn't, it can go into a lot of detail, but I think it's something that should also come up, like you mentioned as well, 100%, without doubt. On the career development aspects, so let's say, for example, you have a job in the advisory sector, what are some career mistakes people need to avoid for financial planners or for advisors? Because you see all these candidates all the time, whether either maybe jumping to a job every 2-3 years or...
We've got a very successful financial planner who hasn't completed some of his paperwork correctly. He's seen a client. The client said, I've got to go to a function. Off they went to that function, but I agree with what you're saying. You can sign it off. Well, I'm not talking about sign off the final document, but sign off part of the process within that from a compliance perspective. So him thinking that's okay to do, he's now put his career at potential jeopardy purely on the basis that he just said, no problem at all. There is a lot of professional rigor to do in this industry, and rightly so. Yeah, this is akin to, so you've got to cross your T's and dot your I's and be exceptionally compliant in this industry. Yeah. Because if you're not, you'll catch a cold.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. And catching a cold means you're out of the industry very quickly. Yeah. If you're not compliant and you don't follow the compliant procedure.
It's like a very thin line, isn't it?
Thin line. So you've got to be able to understand the big risk to you if you don't do a compliant role and follow you're Simply Biz, so follow the Simply Biz criteria, whatever it is.
There's loads of Simply Biz, Paradigm. There's many out there. There's a lot out there, and some obviously bigger firms that have their own in-house compliance. While I have you here as well, I've drafted up some questions. If I were to start again, from the very beginning into financial planning, where would I start? So these are the questions I've come up with, and I think they're very, very valuable for any audience that's listening, whether young or starting their career. Let's say, for example, I want to go into financial planning world. Where are my entries? Where do I start? Where do I go to? So I want to work in a financial planning firm. Is there apprenticeship roles? Do I go to small businesses?
3-prong attack if I was you. Now, you're sort of, I'd look at the big and beautiful. So I'd have a look at the academies for St. James's Place, for Open, for quilters. I'd have a look there and get an understanding of what they offer. I'd go, like I showed you on that the website earlier, I'd go and have a look at the mentorship program, which is free of charge. I'd see if I can get a mentor. I think mentors in your career are beyond critical. And the best way to get a mentor is to find someone who likes what you like.
Answered my second question.
To find somebody. So I would go into financial planner, rugby professional or rugby, and I would find my person who on LinkedIn, who's a CEO or MD of a financial planning arm, who's been sponsored or played rugby before, and I would directly send you to him. That's what I would do if I'm your agent.
Right.
I'm saying, because you got something similar. You got something to square off.
Mutual conversation points.
Correct. And he'll respect you and you'll respect him if you're both rugby players. That's just the code we go on. So I would look, mainly, my first port of call would be to someone like young. I'd say to him, we need to identify where you want to work and who you want to work for. And then we'd create the opportunity with one of the big firms, or we'd create it with one of the small firms. And the small firms would be more around about alignment of what you're trying to achieve and what they're trying to achieve. Back to when I left the Air Force, writing to 86 or 88 companies, I think the degree of that is back to writing to a few companies with your CV saying, this is what I'm trying to achieve. But as part of that, I think you've got to demonstrate that you've possibly bought RO1 or CF1 and you've started doing self-education. You've got to join that, because the question...
Where would one go for such qualifications? If I had no clue, I wanted to start learning.
Yeah, you'd go CII, you'd go on their website. So my daughter wasn't a mortgage advisor. She went onto the mortgage equivalent website. We ordered her past papers and we got her...
Get cracking.
Get cracking. 3 weeks later, she passed. There is sufficient... I can't remember who it is, but if they looked onto Google and just said, I think it's the next gen. So it could be the next gen, where they will, every 4 weeks, and they've done a link up with an organisation, every 4 weeks you can take one of your exams.
Wow.
They will have you pass that qualification in whatever the appropriate time is, 6 months, 7 months. So you'll be diploma qualified. So if I'm a young person, the first thing I'm doing is investing in myself.
Yeah.
So one of the criticisms I have of my children and my team, they haven't got what I call restless curiosity. So I want them to sit there and think, how the hell am I going to achieve what I want to achieve? In my day, we never had Google. Yeah. We had to go around the houses. Now they can go and Google and say, give me 5 ways, or go ChatGPT, give me 5 ways where I can be qualified as a financial planner within a year. And it will give you them bullet points.
They will, yeah. And I think we'll list, you mentioned CII.
Yeah.
I think there's another really good business out there that does the same thing, institute called CISI.
Okay,
yes. Which is also very good. Yeah. I think they call their chartered a certified status of some sort.
Yeah, level 7.
Level 7, yes. Level 7. I think level 6 is chartered.
Yeah.
So you've got your CII, you've got your CISI. Yeah. So if you're a young individual that has no clue about the financial planning world, go and get a certificate at least. Yeah. Go and just pay for £100. It will give you almost more knowledge than you can think.
I think when you get to interview and you say to your prospective client, this is what I've done myself.
It's a world's difference.
Massively difference. And that's what I would do. I would also join the mentorship program straight away, because it's free of charge. I'd go on Google and put financial service mentoring. It's all the details
there. Go get
in
touch with someone, like you said, on LinkedIn, who is Go Mutual. Because I think, let's say, for example, you're in the MD seat, you're the MD, and some young individual comes up to you, mesh out the blue, says, I'd love to learn. I'd love to pick your brain.
100%. Yeah.
I'd love to be a sponge, gain some knowledge. Yeah. It's such a, almost like a respectful thing as well. You also want to give some of your knowledge away as well. And also for that person to come up to you to have, the guts or the strength to say that's a big thing too. So it's vice versa.
Yeah. We've got a young lad at Loughborough University, and I've committed to getting him a job pro bono. I don't want any money for it. He finishes his degree. He'll come out in economics with a 2-1. He might get a 2-2, but he's desperately trying to get a 2-1. I've written to 5, not clients, 5 companies that I know. I've said it's on a pro bono. This guy walks into the football club. He shakes hands with the bar staff, the chairman, the old age spectators. He sits down, he listens to them. He's got an interest in finance. He's doing an economics degree. I know he's going to be an absolutely extraordinary financial planner.
Wow.
3 of them come back and said, Charles, we'll have a coffee chat with him. Done.
Wow.
I want no money for it because he's a decent lad.
Yeah.
And I could see him being a financial planner. I could see him advising people because he cares. He truly does care about the outcomes for people.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not about selling. It's kind of like service over selling. That's what your industry, the biggest change has been since I've been in it. It used to be about sales.
Yeah, it's obviously changed. So people orientated.
Yeah, now it's about servicing.
We spoke about various qualifications. I think, let's say, for example, you don't have a degree. You had A levels.
Yeah.
You can literally go and do these qualifications. You don't need a degree to do the qualifications.
Correct.
You can go up and literally start them from any time you want. Let's say you're an individual without a degree.
Yep.
And you want to enter the financial planning administrative world, right? Or financial planning. Do you think that's a big thing, a big missing part of the CV that's needed that firms look at?
Most firms are owned by baby boomers. 25% of baby boomers got degrees. So if you really plug them hard and you say, this is where I've come from, this is what I'm about, I've now started my journey on getting a diploma. I left school at 16 or 17 or 18. I went to college to follow a dream. It didn't work out like I wanted to work. And this is what I've done now to develop myself. I think people take a view that developing yourself is as good as, if you got a first from a Russell Group university, companies like Schroders and HSBC and Barclays and some of the top organizations,
banks,
they're going to be licking their lips. They're going to be salivating.
Yeah.
Let's be clear on that. But I'm talking about the micro business. I'm talking about the SME firms. I'm talking about the firms that want somebody who's community driven, because they all service a community. Be it in my village, my IFA in our village, he's got about 60 of the clients in that village, and he is Mr. IFA.
Yeah.
He does it all, and it's more community led and more heartfelt and more caring. And he'll go to the christenings and he'll know the kids' names. He'll high five them on the way in.
Yeah.
But more importantly, he'll help them with the pensions. He'll help them with protection. He'll help them with the investments.
And rightly so. Saying that, do you think there's any misconceptions in the financial planning world that young people think that it's about this, but it's not actually?
I think they're ignorant. I don't really think they know enough about it.
I didn't at all, and I completely agree with that. Until I actually got the job, it was like, wow, it's a lot more interesting than you think.
Correct. There needs to be this education piece, which
which we're lacking, which is coming in.
Correct. Yeah. I think it's called Spring Pod. So there's been a connection between the CII and Spring Pod. Spring Pod are learning software. So they're trying to sort of like, they've given them the syllabus, so to speak, and they've said to Spring Pod, make this sexy. Make it nice, make it user-friendly, make it intuitive,
make it Gen Z, make it millennial.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to reach out, because I said to my young son, Jaden, who's in my business, Jaden, we might just, for your personal development, we might just put you through the diploma. Why not? And we'll find a way of doing it where you can do it in 6, 7, 8 months. And then you've got options for doors to open, but you've also educated yourself to a level which is equivalent to whatever it is.
You mentioned that, go put your son through diploma level and, the first qualifications through a CII, CISI.
Yep.
Let's say, for example, you get the job in a financial planning firm, right? So you start out most likely as a financial planning administrator.
Correct.
There's many fancy names.
Yes.
Then you most likely, get promoted, you go level up. What is the progression like in that world?
Great question. I think you make a decision very early in your days whether you love what you do, because if you love what you do and you love the client interaction, then you're going to stay and you're going to end up going through, at some stage, you're going to be chartered. And what will happen is
whether you like it or not, you're going to have to
be chartered, because if you want to work for a chartered company, you've got to have whatever 80% of the employees are going to be chartered. And the trend is moving towards that.
Yeah.
Everyone's moving towards it. But there's so many openings there because you can go for, like we talked about earlier, you could go and become an intermediary BDM. You could decide that you're going to work in an MPS. You're selling the platform.
MPS being managed portfolio services.
Correct,
with an asset manager.
Correct. And you're selling that platform to IFA businesses. So you're
now you're on the other side.
You're on the other side of the fence because you might see attracted to the business to business. You might just, but equally, you might just stay on the tools and grow and develop yourself and become a private client effectively, or become a corporate financial planner. But it's kind of like, I'm not going to tell you there's 100 different routes to go, because if you've taken time out and studied to be a chartered financial planner, typically you're either going to go into leadership or you're going to stay on that horse and you're going to be that, or
you might build your own family office entity or go private banking, get that experience. I think we missed a very vital little section in the middle, and that's the paraplanner role. Because a lot of times, you can become you go through a financial planning administrative role, and then you get the qualification. Sometimes you don't like being client facing. Sometimes you enjoy the analytical aspect. You enjoy doing all the analysis, you enjoy putting together documents, doing the tax various tax advice. And you go down the power planning route, which is just as good as the advisor route.
In Australia, years ago, I was across in Australia, and the power planner role was paid exactly the same as the financial planner role.
Wow.
On the base. Truthfully was, because the value of a power planner is effectively, using the football analogy, my IFA is in the box. My power planner's doing all the bloody hard graft.
Which to be fair.
Yeah, they're doing all the reports.
But the beauty of the financial planning sector is that there's a spot for everyone.
Correct.
Whether you're introvert or an extrovert, it can please both sides.
And often the financial planner, that's the relationship manager in the box. You have your relationship managers that are doing the business as usual, who are keeping in the contact strategy and keep updating the records. But the financial planner, when it comes to the serious time, in terms of sitting down with me and doing my annualized review, then that's the serious stuff.
100%.
Yeah, and that's
I'm really lovely you mentioned all that, because at Zomi Wealth we actually have that tripod. We have a financial planning administrator, a relationship manager, and a financial advisor. And the audience might think, how does it all help with the experience and qualifications? And what we've done is we've made sure that when a financial planning administrator comes in, we want to help them secure their qualifications. We want to get them the qualification. We'll bring them the CII, bring them the CISI. You do your 2 years, then you go up to relationship manager, then you're almost partly qualified. Now you work alongside the advisor. You gain all the valuable knowledge, the actual, you can call it apprenticeship knowledge, but the actual groundwork. You're not the bookwork anymore. You've done the bookwork, it's now the groundwork. And then as time progresses, you can build up your own client bank. If the firm has some type of M&A strategy or buy strategy, organic strategy, it will come naturally. So there's a massive progressive route, and we've built it up at Zomi, and we're very happy. Plus, we're bringing a very younger generation. I think our advisors obviously are still the experienced, older demographic, but you still need that. You definitely still need that.
There needs to be a sort of like a transfer. We talk about transfer of wealth, but there needs to be a transfer of knowledge.
Without a doubt. That comes with the whole mentor thing as well.
Correct.
Your mentor could not just be on LinkedIn, but it could be in a workplace. It could be an individual anywhere, but in the sector, of course, to some degree.
But if we talk about acquisitions, if I buy your business and you're 60 and I buy your business, you're going to stay there for 1, 2 or 3 years.
You're still going to be there,
You're going to be there. And when it's around about how much can I leverage on you? How much knowledge do you want to give me? Do you want to pay it forward and make me a better version of myself? I think that should be part of the mergers and acquisition deal.
The agreement, the agreement.
You're going to pass that baton over of knowledge.
And you're basically learning, 20, 30 years of experience in 2 years.
Correct.
I mean, you can't put a price on that, can you?
No, you can't. And and it'll help you grow quicker.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's like, if you go to a sports person and your position was centre, I believe.
Yeah.
And if you're getting taught how to play centre by someone who was a superstar 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier, then they're making you better. And that's what they're going to do.
Definitely so. Go on to the last part. I mean, we've really spoken about almost
we've gone around the house
the full
a bit,
360. We've gone on I think we've covered every single caveat. But I think it's really important, because whoever's going to watch this first podcast really gets the full-blown effect of it. And I think the barriers to enter into financial planning world, the financial planning sector, it's easy. It is there. You can. There's not a lot of barricades up as what it used to. It never used to be. It's just you have to be willing to get the qualification, to be willing to enter and to love working with people.
Yeah.
Love working with people.
And it's not, I don't know how far you would think, or I've never worked in a financial planning company. So how far away is it from the perception wise, like working for an accountancy firm when you first done the qualification there? Because that used to have the image of being staid and dull and overly serious.
Maybe it still is a bit, I don't know. I mean, maybe if any accountants might be commenting on it, but I think the financial planning world in general is an awesome industry to be in, because a lot of people think it's just behind a computer. It's not. I mean, we've got relationship managers. We have just now been promoted from financial planning administrators. I mean, they're flying about the country, seeing clients, having fun, doing the actual out of office activities.
Yes.
Because as one thing, talking to clients over phone, over video call, but doing it in person is a completely different skill.
Great relationship. The more hands you shake, the more money you make.
Rightly so. Rightly so. Saying that, I love this question. I'm definitely going to try to ask every guest then.
Yeah.
Where do you see the financial advisory world the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow.
Especially with all the change. I spoke about tech, spoke about AI, spoke about mergers and acquisitions activity. It's a lot going on. And I think there's no right or wrong. It's an opinion-based question, isn't it?
Yeah. 5 years Labour may or may not still be in. I think in the UK, I think there'll be products like bonds. I think we've got this, those who have and those who haven't. And we're losing a lot of money out of the UK. Millionaires are leaving it because of the tax regime we've got. There's never been a bigger need than there is now.
Because of the generational wealth transfer, saying like 1 trillion in the next 2 decades.
Never been a bigger need. How we address that need will define what the industry looks like over the next 2 or 3 years, in my view. Because if we've got this decreasing number of people using financial planners, and we've got an increasing number of people using finfluencers, and how do we...
or robo-advice as well.
Absolutely. Or simplified guidance, whatever they want to call it. How do we get that 9 or 11%, whichever we agree on, how do we get that to become 20%? Because if not, the 31,000 people we've got is probably enough in this industry.
Yeah, definitely so.
But the moment we scale it up and we create a demand, and rather than people going to platforms, which is I'm really excited by the banks coming back in, because I think that's going to sort of like do something in the marketplace in terms of increased competition.
Definitely, yeah.
And we have to become sort of like, how do we deal with that? Because every bank's got my details already.
Yeah.
And if they offer me to take up my pension pot and doing it for a significantly smaller number than I'm paying now, that's a conversation.
Definitely, yeah. But I think some financial planners might go against that for various reasons, on regulatory, and I think the effort that goes involved into that.
Yep.
Because I think it's really important. Most IFAs are independent.
Yes.
And that independent word is a huge thing. Means really access to the whole of market, which sometimes it's a very debatable conversation.
It is a debatable conversation.
No, that's very true. Yeah. It's a good intake, and I think I definitely agree with that. I think we're going to have a lot of smart individuals, entrepreneurs, that have very clever thinking of how they can draw in that Gen Z, that millennial, and the next.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
It definitely
is. That is a challenge, because they're going to have the wealth. They're going to have the wealth because they're going to be left the wealth by the baby boomers.
Well, anyone who's watching this, maybe they might be the next genius, and might be able to
100%.
market it or do it perfectly. So yeah, Charles, that comes to the end of it. And,
is it really?
It's come to the end of it. It has
10 minutes.
No, I know. I think we've been having a lovely time, and honestly, it's it's been a big blessing on having you on the show. I think I've learned a lot on the recruitment side. I wish I knew all of this when I just started. I mean, obviously, I went in blind. I had no clue. I picked it all up very quickly. I think there's a good analogy, swim or sink, or wherever the saying is.
Sometimes you got to dive in the deep end and learn how to get out of it.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's been an honour, and thank you very much for your time.
Good. Man. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Charles.
Top man.